They asked me, why are you running? I said,
Yep. And good morning. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today, I am joined by a couple people that are representing the Fresno School District, one that hopes to be on the board and one of the few points of light on that board. Welcome.
welcome, Eric.
Today, I have Andy Fabela and Terry Slatic. Before we get there, though, I have some opportunities to get involved. First one is actually about people that in Clovis that are talking about exiting schools, and public schools need to hear that. They need to realize that if they don't raise their game and begin to educate students, people are going to find alternatives. So this is at 6 p.m. tonight, 120 at 854 North Fowler Avenue in Clovis. There'll be speakers, there'll be people talking about homeschooling and other opportunities to kind of get away from the public school system. I hope we can save the public school system, and I wouldn't be here talking to these two gentlemen if all three of us did not believe it can be saved. But competition breeds excellence, and so I think that looking into alternatives and making public schools realize they need to step up, they need to focus on education is truly important.
Yes.
Another event is a medical freedom event. They're having a rally from 2 to 4. This is Sunday, 123, and it is at Clovis and Shaw. Just go out. If you don't have signs, that's okay. There are several people that have extra signs. You know, just because our President Brandon, lost on the vaccine mandates doesn't mean this is over, because we have King Newsom still, and he doesn't seem to care about our rights or our Constitution. So go out, give him some support. Monday, 124. The Clovis chapter of Constitutionalists for California is having our weekly meeting. So that's 6:30 p.m. at 1123 Railroad Avenue. Tuesday, 125, that is the Kingsburg chapter of Constitutionalists for California. They also have a 6:30 time. It's at 15,000 Rose Avenue. It is going to be a dinner social meeting, so if you just wanted an opportunity to get to know the people, here's a good way to kind of have an intro and go, well, these are my kind of people. That is at Deli Casa in Kingsburg. It's right by the gym on Draper Street and the railroad tracks. Won't be hard to find. Those Avenue, not very It's going to be a dinner social meeting, so if you can't find it, just ask somebody. Just wanted an opportunity. Everybody's going to know. Final event I have on my calendar. This one's about election integrity. This will be February 5th. It is the Election Integrity Forum. It is hosted by Secretary of State candidate Rachel Ham, but we have Linda Payne from Election Integrity Project. She'll be speaking. We have a cyber expert, Colonel Phil Waldron. We have several other people that are going to be participating in that. This should be a big event, a couple hundred people. If you're interested, you can go to accfei.org. I will put it in the Facebook show notes. I'll try to figure out how to also post it in the comments for Spotify and for YouTube. But if you care about election integrity, this is a big event. We just celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday, and it was a little before my last show, so I thought I wanted to pay homage to somebody that I consider one of my heroes. The left seems to have moved beyond Martin Luther King and has decided that we need racism, typically called critical race theory, as a way to take care of racism, rather than moving to a society where we judge each other by the content of our character. And I think that's truly sad. The man is a hero of mine. He wasn't perfect, just like every great man in history. But he had some phenomenal ideas that I believe have become institutional. They have woven into the fabric of American society. We're still not perfect, but having a colorblind society would be a great thing. I have multiple relatives of mixed race. I mention that Because it doesn't really matter. Why do I mention that? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
No.
They're just family.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I need to just think of it that way. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my two guests. Which one of you is going to go first?
The new guy.
The new guy. So, Ed.
My name's Andrew Fabela. I'm a parent here in Fresno. My daughter attended Fresno Unified Schools for 15 years, and I helped and was part of her class and her education for those 15 years, and saw from the inside, as a parent, the chaos that exists within the school district. And so I've been helping parents for those past 15 years and beyond. So that's my thing right now. So I'm trying to run for school trustee so that I can help affect change from within the district, so that those changes will help parents and students who are outside the district.
Well, thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
And most of my guests know Major Slatic. But tell me a little bit about background, because I am getting new people.
Absolutely. Trustee Major Terry Slatic, United States Marine Corps, retired. Born in New York City, raised in Florida. Been to 34 countries, 49 states, and 2 wars. Been on the school board, fighting the insane leftists, all of them, every single day for the last 3.25 years or such. They got crazier last year, feeling empowered with the wind behind their backs, if you would. The things I wish I could tell you that they say in closed session, anyone who's watching, that it is crazy time. But crazy on exponential steroids, if you could hear the things I hear that I can't discuss. I can sit there legally and say, your head would explode if you heard the things they say in closed session. But it is that bad, which illustrates their intent to keep taking it crazier and crazier and crazier, and making it, getting rid of your segue from Dr. King. There's no more equality in these folks' minds. It's all about equity. Okay, equity, again, let's be crystal clear, listening audience. Equality means equal opportunity. Equity, in this definition, as these trustees use it, and Newsom and Biden and all these folks, it means equal outcome. And at some point, I could illustrate, what does equity grading look like? If we can capture that on the show right now or sometime today, everyone's head will explode, and they will vote for Mr. Fabela and anybody else who's wants equality back.
Well, I just read an article by Larry Elder. Equal rights deserved by all. Equal results deserved by none. I kind of think that is the American way. We're very much about meritocracy. And
we were?
Yeah.
That used to be the general
some
purpose.
of us are still fighting.
Right.
But how do you get excellence without meritocracy? Instead, it's just all you get is mediocrity if it's all about equity.
To these radical leftists, though, Eric and Andy and audience, the only thing that matters, and I'm not pointing out something you all don't both know, and everyone, it's all about that we mean well. Okay, and it's the emotion, the execution of the plan, in the end state that you achieve with such a thing is irrelevant. Well, we mean well.
Yeah, you can mean well all you want. You can want people to like you, but in the end, you'll never accomplish anything if that's your main goal, is to have people to like you. Your main purpose should be, how am I going to assist children in their educational endeavors, and how am I going to assist the tools, the primary tool that children have in order to learn, and that is their teachers. So how can I assist them first and foremost? How do I integrate parents back into the classroom so that their child and their community will take education seriously?
No, that's an important point. You've largely done that over the last 15 years. You've advocated for your child.
Yes.
And you've been to how many board meetings?
Over 250.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm proud to say I've now been to 15 in Clovis and I think 5 in Fresno. I live in Clovis, so I don't make Fresno quite as often. But
yeah, it was really, when my daughter first entered Fresno Unified, I thought, it was just going to be, I'm going to go into her classroom and help tutor and whatever and help the teacher out. And then as you see it more and more happening, you see teachers that didn't want to teach. You see disruptive kids. You see well, actually, in my case, the school being so academically inept that the state of California came and took it in and took it away from Fresno Unified and said, you can't have it. And so I had to actually go out into the community and say, I need you to come back to your school so you can help your teachers. So if you want art, if you want music, or any of those kinds of things, you're going to have to come back and be a part of the educational system, because right now it's broken.
So you stepped out to your community.
Yeah, I walked
to try to fix it. This isn't a guy that just stood by. He went,
no,
there's an issue.
No,
Let's fix this. This is kind of American ingenuity.
Yeah, I understood that in order for my daughter to get the best education at that school, I was going to help all the students, because the state of California was not going to leave until every grade level was at some kind of proficiency level that was a good standard. So that meant helping. She was in kindergarten. I had to help the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grades as well. And that meant going out into the community and bringing them back and saying, look, your kid needs to be helped. Let me know what your child needs. Is he a special needs child? I can get you that. I can go downtown, go to a meeting and say, where's your assistant superintendent in charge of special education? You know, I need to see that person, because I have a parent over here whose child isn't getting services. You know, so those are things I had, and that's one of the reasons why I've been to over 250 board meetings, because of parents coming to me and seeing me on the internet at school board meetings, getting services for kids, and they're saying, well, maybe I can ask this guy, because he doesn't seem to be afraid of, at the time it was Superintendent Nelson or the school board or any of the assistant superintendents that were there. He's telling them, you know, right off, you know, so they'd come to my door and say, hey, I need help.
So you became an advocate for basically your community.
Yes, exactly. For the people of Fresno Unified. And I didn't realize it until I found so many parents coming to and knocking on my door or calling me in the middle of the night. You know, it was both shocking and at some point rewarding as well. Because people always ask, how much do you get paid? How much do you get paid? I haven't gotten a penny, you know, over 15 years.
And it's not going to be great pay for being one of those 7 members on the school district board.
Well, minimum wage.
Yeah. Well, I plan on giving some of that back to the schools as well, if they need resources or something. If they want to have a family dance, to bring the community together and bring families together so they can meet one another, you know, I'll sponsor that with part of the money I make. You know.
How did the two of you then meet? Because both of you got into this because you care about the kids.
Well, Andy's children. Okay, there's this bizarre idiosyncratic thing that you can live in an area in Fresno Unified. Okay, there's election boundaries and attendance boundaries, and they're not the same thing. So Andy happens to...
Of course,
yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Oh, no, and we could do a 2-hour show on that. Especially, this all came out with the redistricting that's just going on right now. So Andy lives in one of these, it's not even a real small sliver, it's a pretty good-sized sliver, where he attends some of the schools, his kids rather, attend some of the schools in the Fresno High area and some in the Bullard High area, yet lives in the area that they would vote for him for the Fresno High trustee. So his children went to high school with my children at Bullard, despite having started down in the Fresno High area.
Yeah. So in essence, Slater was
mud.
Yeah. So
Clear as mud.
Slater was
written in jello.
Yeah. So Slater was a school that it was her attendance area, but that school, even though it's in the Fresno High area 5, it feeds into the Bullard High School system. And so you have areas like that around, like hopefully got one of them fixed in reference to area 4 that used to encroach upon the feeder pattern of Fresno High, where they took Del Mar Elementary. They used to feed into Fresno High, and Fort Miller Middle School that fed into Fresno High, but it was represented by area 4, Viva Islas. So it was just, people would ask me, well, wait a minute, who's representing who? And they would get confused. I thought I was going to Fresno High. No, actually, the McLean person is representing you. So they would go nuts.
I hope they got some of that fixed.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's just insane to me how is it that this culture of unaccountability, and I don't know how else to say it, how did that happen?
I mean, I've been studying this 60 hours a week now, for a lot of the time as a parent, but absolutely, well, 60 hours a week is an elective. And accountability is the backbone of the Marine Corps. I mean, you from the day one standing on those yellow footprints. So after 3+ years of 60 hours a week, the only answer to that, folks, is it didn't happen overnight. Okay, it happened over, 20 years ago, I'm convinced it wasn't like this, but it is now. And it's an insidious process of just, hey, we won't hold you accountable because we just want stuff to keep moving down the field. And again, we could do a 2-hour show on this as well. But the short answer is it didn't happen overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. We're going to fix it a lot quicker than it got this way. It got this way over a decade plus. Their plan exists. I don't know how much the granular we've gotten you into it. The intent is this place will be turned around into a high functioning district in 3 to 5 years once we have 4 sane people on the board.
Yeah, when the school superintendent prior to Bob Nelson, he wanted to have his own programs inserted in, and so the only way to do that was to remove assistant and associate superintendents that did not believe in these programs, and replace them with principals that were failing at their schools, and give them a raise and a promotion to be an assistant superintendent. And then he would just tell them, look, you want to keep that nice $180,000 job? And you want those lifetime benefits? All right, when I tell you to do something, you better do it. Okay.
So those are the rubber stamp people.
That was the rubber stamp people. And the worst part about it was that you had a board majority that were rubber stamp people as well. If it said on the agenda, superintendent recommends, aye.
They just
that bobblehead thing was going on, and that was it. And all of a sudden, you just saw ineptitude. People, superintendents of leadership that have 45 schools to look after, and all those 45 schools are failing. You ask principals who are supposed to know things like what is Title I. What is the independent or individuals with disabilities in education act. Things like this that run a school and that decide how much money a school is going to get and services a child is going to consume.
Kind of the rules of
the game
when you're interacting with.
And they're supposed to know the playbook. Yeah, as a principal, and especially as a school site principal, it's so important to know the playbook. These guys don't know it. I mean, I've seen a guy who was a 5-year teacher, but he had a mom at a principal, and the mom said, "Can you help my kid?" And the kid got his master's. He went to became a VP, and for 2 years a VP, and then he went and got a principalship.
In his 20s.
Yeah, in his 20s. Only 5 years in the classroom. He had more time as an administrator than he did as a teacher. And when I would tell people, those are the ones that are not dedicated teachers. It's simply a job, and they're trying to get the highest pay possible. And this person right now, he's looking at the downtown building and saying, that's where I want to be. I want to be an assistant or an associate superintendent.
Well, let me segue off of that one, because I'm pretty sure we're speaking about the same person who shall remain nameless. But this is a person who theoretically, you could be a fast tracker and get it done when you get to be a principal. I will concede that. This isn't one of those cases. It's a person who screwed the crap out of a school site for 3 or 4 years, then get put back in the classroom, got a whole nother school site to screw it for 3 or 4 more years, and then he's at his third school site, and nothing's written in his file about the wake of destruction he left behind him. This is the way this place runs.
Is it because he's related to somebody? Is it because...
In my opinion, there's no... you won't find that written down anywhere, but in my opinion, of course it is. The senior staff at FUSD is defined as the cabinet. This is 27 people from the superintendent down to I could define their roles. There almost always has superintendent somewhere in the role as associate, deputy superintendent, instructional superintendent. These folks are related to thousands of people that work in our 10,000 person teacher and non-teacher workforce. by blood or by marriage or close association in high school or whatever. It's incestuous. In part, one of the things that has to get fixed is that has to go.
So you're saying that there's a whole culture of nepotism.
Oh, yeah.
On steroids, necrotic, oozing nepotism.
Yeah.
I know there's another issue. It has to do with the fact that Fresno Unified has basically found every lawyer they could in the area, and nobody can sue them. So nobody can advocate for their kid in certain ways unless they can afford to get a lawyer out of the area.
San Jose, San Francisco.
Yeah.
No, and that has to go. Let me be clear. That will go. And let's quantify what you just said. It's a concept. You're absolutely right. Fresno Unified, third largest district in the state with circa 75,000 students. The second largest is San Diego with 115,000 students. We have 28 law firms, the major 28 law firms in Central California, in some retainer agreement or representation agreement. Okay. San Diego, that's 40% bigger, has 12. You got to just look at it that way. We have easily, so should we have 28? No. Should we have 12, 10, 14? But it's not 28. And, to validate this, I sat down with the head of HR and Superintendent Nelson several months ago on this. And I said, because they know that we're coming. Okay, we're coming to take control of this board and bring sanity back. I said, and that's one of the things that will go. And they both, oh my God, we're going to get sued every day. Yes, we are. And we're going to hold the people accountable.
Here's an example of what I had to do to help 16 parents with special needs kids. They came to me, Mr. Fabela, we need help. We want to sue. We can't find anybody to sue. So I said, don't worry. Let's just go right to the source. Let's go to the Superior Court. Well, and we found an open judge, Alan Simpson, a retired judge. And we went to the judge and we said, Your Honor, this is what's going on. These parents here are in need of services. The district is not providing them. They've gone over and over again. We're now halfway through the school year. And the judge is looking at me with this befuddled look like, are you nuts? This is a school district that is getting hundreds of millions of dollars just to do this, and they aren't providing it. So he writes out a court order. Forget that, you don't need attorneys, right, when a judge writes a court order. And he wrote this court order out, ordering the district, you will get the IEPs written up for these children. You will use a child psychologist if need be. You will get them a speech therapist if it's necessary. And then at the bottom last paragraph, the judge writes, I am embarrassed that I have to actually write a court order to order a school district that's supposed to do this by law to actually do it. And I was like, and I wrote, and I said, I presented it at the board, and before I presented it, I read that last paragraph, and I was like, this is what happens, man. We can get enough people to actually not complain, but simply stand up for themselves. You can get things done.
Well, an important point is when you speak to government, it's almost always recorded. Some of the smaller school districts, it's not, though you could come in with your phone and record, and they can't stop you.
Right.
But you're speaking to everybody that would be watching that recording.
Right.
So a lot of people won't take the time to go to a school board meeting, but they will watch it online and then get on the phone or the internet and send an email. And so you're speaking to that larger audience, not just the board that's in front of you.
Right. And so, I'm sure, because I think Firebaugh had some parents go to the Superior Court. I think there was some from Kings Canyon Unified that had parents. That's a Reedley area. And so, and they said, we can't afford attorneys, but there's a judge that will listen to us, and that's why I knew Tony Ishii, Judge Tony Ishii, the federal court judge now, and I knew him when he was in a municipal court judge in Selma, and he was like, are you running for school board? And I thought I heard something about that because he knows my mom. And he said, yes, I am. And he goes, well, about time. And he goes, because your mom would be proud of you, because my mom passed away 6 years ago. And she was a very strong activist for families and children. And so he was like, she'd be proud of you because, this school district needs to be torn down and then built again, rebuilt. And so I thanked him for that, so.
I kind of see this whole thing as a house of cards. Instead of strong foundation, you could kick out any one card and the whole thing could collapse.
Mm-hmm.
There are numerous schools that are in danger of being taken over.
Yes.
Bullard High and Fresno High are
Fresno
darn
High
close,
one. Yeah.
by the state. And yet, I've been in multiple board meetings and I never hear them address learning loss, ways to educate kids. It's let's talk about the happy things, and there's a little bit with
Yeah.
you know, those kids that are really doing well. There's a tiny portion,
Right.
and then the rest of the kids are kind of just being left to flail on their own.
Yeah.
They're set adrift.
No, I've been walking the streets of Area 5, and I've had parents, talk to me, and they say, I hear the superintendent say, we have the highest paid Hmong administrator in the nation. And I'm like, what is that?
Who cares? How's
Yeah,
that help
I'm like,
educate
well,
kids?
I said, well, how do you? And they asked me, what does that mean? I go, well, I don't know what it means. It just means that we like spending a lot of money, because I'm sure we could have went to Minnesota and went through all the Hmong folks over there and found an administrator for half the price and could have gotten it done. But we just want to raise somebody up in-house, which is what we've always done, and give them a very high price salary. And so, it's just things like that Fresno Unified does in promotions, in terms of the programs that they submit. Sometimes they just do not make a lot of sense.
Well, if you have a board that's only concerned with being woke and not concerned with educating kids, that's what you get.
Yeah.
LA Unified decided to get rid of the D's and F's.
Hmm?
Is Fresno Unified thinking about doing the same thing? I know they have another method around that.
There's all kinds of gyrations about achieving that end state, whether it's getting rid of them or just simply grade inflation.
Yeah. We can send an F student, and I've seen it done, who is he will interrupt classes all through the year, be a total.
So it's not just failing in school, but also a behavioral
problems, and we'll send them to summer school, and we'll give them a C grade or even a D, because that's a passing grade in California. And and that'll be that. The kid's happy, he's gone, he's got the next grade. I was working in an election, and a kid came to me looking to sign up and to vote, and he couldn't read the document that you have to fill out to register to vote. And he brought me his diploma from Sunnyside High School. So we as a district had graduated a kid who was functionally illiterate.
Well, if he can't fill out the voter registration form, how's he going to fill out a job application?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, a good validation, gentlemen and audience, it doesn't really matter getting rid of D's and F's and grade inflation, because no kid has been held back at Fresno Unified in 20 years.
So
it doesn't matter what grade they get.
Yeah.
They'll make sure they pass on to the next grade.
Somehow.
Yeah. And, I actually can't get in depth on this topic for legal reasons and from where part of the board, but I've been speaking publicly. I look at kids' transcripts, the kids that have problems. And in the first quarter, we grade on a quarterly system, even though we're in a semester system. That's for another time. But in the first quarter, you'll see little Johnny or little Susie with 5 F's and a D. Second quarter, 5 F's and a D. Third quarter, 5 F's and a D. And then magically, in the fourth quarter, I'm talking about a sample size of hundreds of kids, fourth quarter, 2 A's, 2 B's, and 2 C's.
So they average that D so that they get moved forward.
To 1.3. So if you do that math, it comes out to 1.3%. And therefore, we met a legal thing. But wait a minute. How can I be looking at hundreds of arguably troubled kids' transcripts, and in the fourth quarter, there's a magic, and of course, the rationalization from downtown when I continue pushing this boulder up the street. Well, because a lot of teachers, trustee, offer extra credit and things in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that's exactly what happened in 100% of these cases.
And no push from the top. We're going to go ahead and take a break.
Okay.
So this is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. To all of those people on various social medias, we're now on some different platforms. We are on YouTube, we're on Spotify, so welcome to any new listeners. We're still on Facebook, we're still on Twitter. This has been a great journey. If you have comments, I always do my best to respond. The show gets seen by more people if you like. So go ahead and click on that like button. This one's really a mess. When I first learned about this, I was like, you're making this up. Like, this would be a movie.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy to me. How can it be this dysfunction? Well, I guess we got to get over that and just go, okay, how do we fix it? Let's go ahead and come back on. So hold that thought. We're going to come back on to the radio. So hit the music, please, Sam. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I am joined by trustee from the Fresno Unified School District, Major Terry Slatic, former U.S. Marine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And also by a really concerned parent that has been stepping up for years and is finally getting around to running. What took you so long, Andy?
I never had. If you ever saw Carol Mills's website, it was a who's who of attorneys and money people in this city, and there was no way I was ever going to. I mean, the people I represent or come to me are those who are poor and in need, and so there was no way I could possibly win, you know. And so, but I'm not saying that her passing was a good thing, but I'm just saying that it opened up a door, and with a lot of people that can be helped, and a lot of people recommending that I run. Most of them parents, it was like, okay, you know, I'll give it my best shot, and we'll see what happens, you know. And but one of the things I've been talking to them, and I've been saying, you know, what I want to do is, you know, you parents who are coming to me, I want to be able to do something for you, and that is do what's for me. I'm going to call it what's called a trustee parent advisory committee. I started it with the superintendent when Michael Hansen was here.
So it's like a subcommittee.
Yeah, Michael Hansen. I used to go to him and I used to say, Michael, why do you think people come to board meetings and chew you out when your administrators tell you everything is hunky-dory, beautiful as everything in the sky? Okay, why is that? Well, it's because they aren't telling you what's going on. But if you have parents, one parent who represents the entire school, come to you and say, look, here it is. Here's what's wrong with my school. Here's what's right. And here's what's wrong. Now you know. And now you can actually go to your administrators and say, I need you to fix this now. And we had it for a year. And then Miguel Arias, who used to work in the communications department and was Michael's right-hand man, said, Michael, you don't need to do that, man. Forget parents. You want your programs, you put them in. You know, the hell with them. You know, and so it was like, you know, the school district closed it. But it was great because he got a lot of feedback, and it was great. I want to do that same thing so that I can get the feedback from the schools that I represent that feed into Fresno High. And for one thing, let them know that I'm listening to their problems, and that I know their problems, and that I'm going to get services and whatever and correct those problems.
Sounds like it's an entirely different approach. Instead of it being, this is what we're doing from the top down, and I would say that a lot of school boards, I would guess this one, they don't really consider them your kids. They're not the parents' kids, so it wouldn't matter what the parents have to say.
Yeah.
That about right?
That's about right.
So having an approach where you are involving parents because and I don't have kids of my own, but of family. The kids that had parents that were involved, that were going to school functions, all did dramatically better.
Yes.
And I can't imagine that isn't the case across the board.
Right.
So why would you not, as a school district, be doing everything you could to involve the kids, parents, so that you'd have greater success, rather than just ignoring them?
I mean, let me jump on that for a second. If you were having, or I were having, because I've had this discussion with, you know, downtown, you know, let's call it Nelson or any of the appropriate assistant superintendents, they would retort, oh, we do that. It's called the LCAP, Local Control and Accountability Program. That is actually going on right now. A bunch of administrators go to a high school, and in that area, the advertiser come in and we want your feedback. Okay, when this was happening in a real sense this year, last year was virtual, was a joke. The previous year was a complete farce. And my favorite illustration of this is the first high school in the batting order 2 years ago was Hoover. Big promotion, big advertise, please come to this, we want your feedback. No one showed up. I mean, maybe one parent. It was the biggest catastrophe and everybody was mortified, chagrined, and embarrassed. The next week they had it at Fresno High, and they shifted the parent. They brought in a couple $1,000s worth of food, free childcare. I understand these are important. You know, it's a 6 p.m. function, but I went to this to do the walk around oversight thing that is within my purview. And half the people attending this didn't live in the area. They were people that FTA, the Teachers Association, shilled and put on buses and sent them over there so we could look like we had a quasi full room with 45 people. And it's like, is that really? I mean, I look at the Hoover example. Do people, people are so unengaged. Okay, I sent around. I'll send it to you when we get done. A picture of the from the board dais last night. About halfway through the meeting, took a picture of the audience. The only guy in the back of the room was Mr. Fabela here. I mean, everybody else in the chairs, 2 or 3 people were staff. It's like, come on, guys. We're a failing school district. You come engage, and I understand some watch on TV and they can't get there. Right. But remember, folks, we've got 75,000 kids, which implies 140,000 parents, plus aunts and uncles and grandparents and advocacy groups. And we got 200 chairs. Please fill them.
Yeah. You've been to a lot more Fresno Unified School Board districts than anybody. What's the largest number of people you've ever seen in that room? I mean, have you ever seen?
Honest to God, I mean, and I don't mean to boast. When I received an award from Fresno Unified, it's called "You Make a Difference." It's an award given to a parent when they do something really great in the school. And when the state of California had taken my daughter's school over, and I've gotten those parents over, and we had turned it around, and they gave me an award for that, for being the key component. And all the staff, 44 teachers were there, the administrators were there, and about maybe 75 or 80 parents came. And so when they gave me the award, they were just like cheering and crying and everything. And I felt great, but that was the first time I've ever seen that building full up that much.
Out of 250 meetings, that
was it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was it. I would have thought when they had, the LGBTQ on the agenda item, I would have thought you would have seen a whole bunch of them there. They weren't, I would have thought when you have LCAP on the agenda item, right, and you're a parent and you want to talk about what kind of money your kid's going to get and how is it going to be spent, I would think you'd have a lot of parents there, but you don't, and I think the large part about it is that we don't really promote it at the school level. You don't.
So they don't know.
They don't know. And not every parent has a computer where you can download the agenda.
Well, they don't always have time.
Exactly. Either. But if you go and you're picking up your kid, you can post that agenda up on the window of the office or something, and where they can see it, and browse it.
I assume that every school has a phone number and an email, contact information for every student.
Right.
It'd be pretty easy.
There's several systems
where you can program them all in and do not group text, individual text or individual emails.
Right. We have
by just pressing one button, you can send 5,000 of them.
Yeah. Well, we have the teleparent, communication system where you can send a communication to all the parents of the district and say, this is what's on the agenda, and these are our A items or B items, and why don't you come?
Do they send out notices like that have to do with attending, say, school board meetings or LCAP meetings?
In my 19 years as a parent, never. In my 3 years as a trustee, never.
No.
Huh.
That's a paradigm, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like they really don't want anybody to give them any feedback.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. This election, back in August 3rd, when Carol Mills passed away on the 22nd of July, they had a special meeting on August 3rd.
I was at that meeting.
That's right, you were, to discuss that. And there was just you, myself, and Michelle Asadorian. And, but you notice Was it advertised anywhere? Did anybody call anybody? No, it was never advertised. Never. But it was such an important meeting. You would think, man, I'd make sure all the parents would be notified.
At least from that district.
Exactly. Right. Or at least from that area.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, but they didn't, you know. And so that's why I had to go out and get on Facebook and say, look, all my friends, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to take your right to vote away from you.
Because they want to appoint somebody.
Because they want to appoint somebody. Okay, so get on the horn right now. Get on your emails and you start writing them, emailing them. So when the next board meeting came, all of a sudden you see then President Davis say, well, we're going to have to remove the agenda item for renaming, for appointing the superintendent or the trustee. We're going to remove that from the agenda because I didn't realize so many people in Fresno High area wanted to appoint their own people, vote for their own person.
Yeah.
Well, if you had let them know, then maybe you would have not needed a couple of 100, 300, 400 emails to get you to know that,
So by using social media, and there's lots of forms of social media, we can get the word out. But if a parent isn't involved to do something like you did, it doesn't happen because they don't seem to want to hear.
No, they're involved with their own lives. Their small life. It's their own world, their own little world. And I just don't think parents have been made to know that although education is not going to solve all their problems, is going to be an important part of it to their solutions to their problems. Common sense and life lessons are definitely going to be another part on how you apply your education. But you have to have that base, that foundation.
Well, they seem to want to teach students on how to think,
Right.
what to think, rather
and so forth.
than how to read, how to do math, how to approach science with a scientific method.
Right.
And with those things, those tools would then allow them to figure out what it is they want to do.
Yeah.
It's like they're more focused on indoctrination than education.
Yeah.
I mean, I will completely concede that there are fantastic teachers out there in the classrooms that have a completely level playing field in terms of what old school things we all learned. But there are some radical leftists in these classrooms that are indoctrinating like that. And that's not even discussing the programs that, I think we've discussed on your show, how every 10th grade girl is being given access through the sex ed as part of 10th grade biology, birth control pills. Yet every parent is not having the information pushed to them that here's the periods during 10th grade biology where little Susie's going to have the sex ed and be given birth control pill access. And if you want her to sit in the library, do independent study, please sign here. It's all the parent has to be aggressively oversight of the school site, the kid, the curriculum every day. But Fresno Unified, in my opinion, is violating law, or at least ed code, by not pushing this information in that the parents have an opportunity to opt Susie out of that class because of their personal or religious needs.
Yeah, so lack of transparency.
Yeah, a mother that I said called last night. She was telling me what happened with her child. A Bullard, she's in 10th grade in a chemistry teacher, but this chemistry teacher is teaching this indoctrination stuff, right? But this teacher is giving all kinds of sexual connotations and stuff, and is just being really inappropriate in class. And when the mother complained and I know Terry knows about this, when the mother complained to the administration at the district, they wouldn't listen to her. They just we're not going to look into it. And they looked into it, and it wasn't no big deal. And so in the end, what the district does is they just promote the vice principal to principal, and they give him a school. So that's what happens when you're
inappropriate.
When you're inappropriate, when you don't do your job as a vice principal, as an administrator,
they reward you.
They reward you by giving you a principalship. And I thought that has got to be the craziest thing in the world.
That's kind of like the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
They keep doing the same things that are not actually educating the kids over and over.
So when you have somebody that it may be good to let a child, like a daughter, a girl, know what this does, what it is that affects you. but you want to know who is teaching that to you too. And if it's somebody who isn't all there, or is inappropriate, as a parent, I would not want my daughter near that person.
Let me jump on that one with a little more granularity to put it in the parent. You're looking at little Susie's context. The teacher in question, who shall remain nameless, is actually not the one. It's not sex ed. It's not incorporated into that. But very inappropriate comments. I look in, or I'm able to determine that his record jacket over his many years at the school site, there's nothing written in it. When all these allegations first came out some time back, and I'm like, does this guy just suddenly lose his mind now? And so I happen to have my 4 kids who attended Bullard High School home. They're all out of high school now. And one night we're having dinner, and they're not home. They don't live home, but they happen to be home for dinner. Hey, did any of you guys have so-and-so for such and such class over the years? And one of my kids did. It would have been back in, 9 years ago. I said, did he ever act odd and do weird things? And like, well, yeah, he did. And I said, like this and like this. And I got very examples like, oh, he did that all the time. Wait a minute. So this was going on 9 years ago. And in this 9-year interim, nothing's ever been written down. But that's the nature of this place.
But if you set up a situation where you're behaving like no evil monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, then you don't have to know about the problem.
Correct.
No, not at all.
Oh, that's I am quite public about that situation 2 years ago at Torona's middle school, where the principal allowed 70 people to camp out on the campus over spring break and film a movie.
Oh yeah.
And the whole thing, what could possibly go wrong with that?
Wow.
Right? And after I have a smoking gun letter that it happened, plus a lot of stuff was stolen, it turned out the excuse was, well, I didn't know I couldn't do that. You've been a principal for 6 years and you don't know that you can't give away a school site for 2 weeks over spring break? Oh, come on. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
And so I assume this person was immediately fired, right?
One would like to think
No.
that did not happen. The person got nothing other than the most minimal thing that disappeared after a short period of time, and there's no record of it.
Yeah.
So kind of a slap on the wrist.
No, not even a slap on.
And as soon as...
I would say a stern look.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and take another break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. When we come back, we're going to start talking about hope and solutions. So, we kind of defined the problem. There's a lot to be mad about. There's a lot to bitch about. But it isn't productive to stay in that space. We need to move forward and find a way to change it. Because if we don't, our future's at stake. You think Fresno Unified students stay right within that area? They move all over. There's no wall. They move into Clovis. They move into every small town. But if they're not equipped to have a real job,
Yeah. What good is it?
yeah, what good is it? So we're going to go ahead and come back. But hope and solutions. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today I'm joined by somebody that is a concerned parent and has now decided to throw his hat in the ring to try to fix the Fresno school district. He is running for the trustee position in District 5, which is the Fresno High area. I'm also joined by Major Terry Slatic. He is a trustee for District
7.
District 7.
The Bullard High School. Yay, Bullard. Thermos. Okay. And we're talking about solutions. One last point on the validation of the problem before we get to the solutions is I had this phenomenal sit down with Sheriff Mims a few months back. And that revealed that in her 15 years as an elected sheriff of a county with over 1 million people population, that in the Fresno County Jail, which everyone unless you're in law enforcement, underestimates the average daily census. Eric, how many people are in Fresno County Jail on the average day?
I would guess 500.
2,500.
25.
It's a big jail. Okay, they hit 3,000. They hit 3,000 judges start getting crazy, but they get down. But it's called 2,500. She's been doing grade level reading assessment on the inmates in the Fresno County Jail for 15 years, using the exact same standards. So it's not like in public education where every 2 or 3 years we change the metrics, so we need 3 more years to correlate them with the last set. It's all that smoke and mirrors crap. But she's been using the same thing and can say absolutely that the grade level aptitude of Fresno County Jail inmates reading is the 4th grade level. 4th grade. Okay, which is consistent with the 2,000 kids we give diplomas to who read, write, and do math at the elementary school level.
Right. They may not all be 4th, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Right, but there's some that are below 4th.
Right, and some that are at 6th.
Some are 6, and let's hang our hat on that. And I
want to be positive.
I love to say, and I say it at any time there's a microphone in front of me, that a 4th grade reading, writing, and math education after 12 years of school gives you fundamentally 3 options in terms of career: farm labor, possibly fast food, and robbing my house.
They might also be able to work as a gardener, but not the boss.
Certainly not the boss.
No.
Okay, but that's farm labor.
And most
to some
of those
extent.
guys are going to be ripping you off because they're not contractors. They're not. They're not filling out tax forms and stuff.
Right.
So because you can't count. They're probably going to say, he's not going to miss $20 off his paycheck. So, but it's got to be funny to see, they give you those little books. They'll tear a book off and throw it on a bunk in the pod, is what I said. And you see people looking at that book and say, I can't read this, But one of the problems I've told by a former teacher of mine, my daughter's 2nd grade teacher, was that, and he worked at Wilson Elementary, and Wilson was one of the schools that is targeted for low reading levels. And so
we need to fix that.
We want to fix it. The district put out a plan called E-Word, I believe it's called. And what that is that they train the teachers on how to use different types of skills like phonics and, how to teach them how to use, really just training them how to see what does OU stand, how does it sound with a GH at the end or with a TR in front, that kind of thing, right? It takes about 3 years to go through training. 3 years. One of the problems he said is that after they get the training, they transfer to other schools. Most importantly, they'll transfer to a school north of Shaw, in the Hoover or the Bullard High area, where you don't need those skills, where people are reading great. So all that training that you just spent on that teacher to help those kids read is now gone. And he said that it was 1 year when 26 teachers or 31 teachers learned, got to training, 26 left. And of the 3 administrators there, the 1 principal and 2 vice principals, 2 of the VPs left. So you're basically gutted the school because of transfers. And that training helped nobody at that school. And my solution to that is, for a teacher to get that kind of training and be at that school, you have to remain at that school for like 5 years at least, to have that training take effect, and see how it's working. That's the only way that's the only way you can get data on it. And it's the only way that's going to help kids go from 2nd grade to 6th grade and help them to be good readers, hopefully. The other thing is, we have children that, like as Terry said, go into high school, their grade level of reading is 3rd and 2nd grade when you get into 9th grade, right? And Fresno Unified has such wonderful programs, CTE programs, biomedical doctors program, nursing.
Well, all the AP programs are working. That's not where things are falling apart.
No. But the thing about it is that they keep saying this, that these are all these wonderful programs, but how is a child with a 3rd grade reading level going to be able to understand anything that's in chemistry or anything that is medical, or even discuss, in my school, international baccalaureate program and those types of textbooks, because you can't understand what you're reading. So what good are all these wonderful programs? It's just really not so much a waste of money. It's just that we're not, the students are not taking maximum advantage of it.
Well, they can't.
They can't.
You have to get them saved in reading in elementary school, or the battle's over.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, almost with the older kids, you almost have minimal hope. You can't. It's not that you can't fix it, but it's going to be much more harder to fix it. The
Yeah.
place to focus
Right.
is at the younger grades.
So somebody needs to answer for me at the senior level of staff downtown. Well, they have answered, but I'm going to tell you what the answer is. It's not good. Okay, why don't we keep little Johnny back in 3rd grade for a second year? Why don't we keep little Susie back in 4th grade for a second year? And all I get is, well, trustee, all the educational professional education dogma says that if you do that, you'll hurt their self-esteem for life.
Yeah.
And
then they're not prepared to live in a meritocracy.
right.
Yeah.
And my retort is, I'm sure being in jail or living under a bridge when they're 22 is not going to be bad for their self-esteem either. But the problem is, one trustee can ask all the hard questions. It takes 4, 5, 6, or 7 trustees to implement stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, one last point that you brought up before that has to be pounded for a moment because of its validity, the term learning loss. This radical left board won't even admit that there is learning loss. By that, I mean COVID and virtual learning. And what we're going to find, it's not just gone down when we were virtual, it's gone completely down. I had a report run last week that came out you probably saw it, Andy, in the Board of Communications, which are public documents.
Mhm.
Out of all the substitute teachers that we had in the fall, which was a giant number because of COVID contact tracing and all that crap, only less than 3%. Okay, you need a special teaching credential to teach math or science in middle school and high school. You need fundamentally a college degree or minor in it.
Yeah.
Only less than 3% of the substitute teachers in FUSD, which is a giant school district, 3rd in the state, had the appropriate credentials as substitutes to teach math or science.
And they pay more than a lot of the surrounding school districts for that substitution.
35% more. And we're still paying this person, and I'm out of my mind with this. And no one's asking this. How many of the substitutes teaching math and science have the appropriate credentials? 2.8%. And it's a giant number. It's 367. So it's 10 out of 367.
Yeah.
Big number.
Yeah. You were talking about the AP students. Well, I haven't checked into this, but I got $1,000. Okay. I'll bet you that every one of those AP classes and the teacher that teaches it is probably credentialed in that class or in that subject. Okay. You go to the other, let's say it's algebra, AP algebra. But if you go to the regular algebra class, okay, where the students are regular students, you're probably going to find a teacher in there that's went to UC Davis and has a degree in art appreciation or in archaeology or something. Completely nothing to do with it. And the thing about it is, you'll have the math department director there at the high school. She will make out daily packets for that teacher. That teacher is going to say, "Here you go, work on this." Okay, and then turn it in at the end of the class, and then see you later.
We're running down on time, so I know you wouldn't be doing all this if you weren't hopeful. In 45 seconds, can you tell me why you're hopeful? How can we fix this? Are there contact places? And then you're going to go last.
Okay. I'm not hopeful. I believe that we're going to get 4 or 5 board seats of sane people in this election cycle, defined as the April 12th special election, and then the 4 seats that are up in the November election. There are phenomenal people that will be declaring for those 4, and they all want the same things that we want. We will get that. I could go on for an hour, but the point is, the right people are in the right places, are going to throw their hats in the ring and say, this is wrong, we have to fix it. It's just like Mr. Fabela here, but there's another one in District 1, there's another one in District 4, I mean, on and on and on. You have to have the right citizens, the right constitutionalist mentality to step up and say, we got to fix it. And those people are here, and I look forward to having them sit in that Andy Fabela chair.
I am enthusiastic about them. I have met them. But
Yes.
Yeah. For me, I have to be hopeful because the clock is ticking. Children are passing through our school district day after day, year after year, and we have to help them. And when I get on that trustee seat, I'm going to have a discussion with every one of my administrators, have them in that board meeting room and say, I am here not for you to like me, but for you to do your job. Okay. And if I have to get censured because I'm doing an administrative work, I'm going to schools to help those people, those parents there, those children, so be it. Okay. I'm just going to work as hard as I possibly can for parents, just like I have been right now.
Well, I thank you both. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. So we're still on social media for just a second. Are there ways to contact you? Are there ways to get involved? What can we do? How can we organize this effort to make it happen?
There is a group. The group is called FixFresnoUnified.org or FixFUSD. They both will work. And that is how, how can you help Andy Fabela, this magnificent man who wants to fix the schools for the kids, come on, gang, for minimum wage, all right, which he wants to donate back anyway, is let's get as granular as possible. Is there anyone out there who's lived in this town for more than a year, who doesn't, whether you don't live in this district or not, you go, well, I can't vote for him, I can't live there. Do you know somebody who owns a business in the Fresno High area? Or do you have a friend who lives at an intersection or on some street there and say, hey, you need to put up an Andy Fabela yard sign in your front yard? Call Andy Fabela. Yeah. Call me. I'll get you hooked up, or FixFresnoUnified.org, and get in touch. But you don't have to write him a check for $200. You just sit there and go, oh, I know Joe Bonatz, who owns a business at the corner of Shields and whatever. They'd love to put a 4x8 vote for Andy Fabela for school district Fresno High in there. That's what gets folks elected. He'd love to have your $250. That buys a bunch of signs, or just have your brother-in-law who lives in that district put a yard sign up.
Or even if you're not in the district, you could go out and walk.
You can walk the areas.
All of the above.
Yeah,
there's a million ways.
If you're on you have a public media outlet like Facebook or any other kind of, you can send out a message to your friends and say, spread the word. This gentleman here is running for school board trustee. He wants the very best for your children, and please support him. And spread the word. If it worked to get us our opportunity to vote, it's got to be able to work to get me voted and to get a vote for me.
Well, I thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, and I look forward to hearing comments. Don't forget to like and